The air is still and heavy with static as you sit on the edge of a concrete ledge, high above the layers of city life below. From this height, the skyline stretches in every direction, like an artificial mountain range. Tower after tower rises with mechanical grace, blinking and breathing with light. Neon signs ripple up their sides like liquid fire, slow-moving ads, animated symbols, shifting languages. You can't read all of them, and you don't need to. They aren't speaking to you directly. They're speaking to the city itself, constantly. The sky above is a hazy electronic purple, darker at the edges, brighter toward the heart of the city. You wonder what it once looked like, before the glow drowned out the stars. Some say they're still up there, just hidden. Others say they've long been replaced by satellites and signal grids, circling above with silent purpose. The ledge beneath you is wide, built to hold maintenance workers or antenna arrays, not quiet observers like you. Beneath your boots, gravel crunches lightly, mixed with shattered bits of plastic casing and disused wiring. To your right, an old terminal blinks in standby mode. Dust coats the glass. The fan inside it still spins slowly, wheezing now and then like an old dog dreaming in its sleep. Far below, the city pulses. Roads curl between buildings like veins. Glowing cars on silent mag rails twist through the air like insects in a light stream. Digital billboards wrap around structures and shimmer in constant motion. You watch them change. A child laughing at nothing, a close-up of a microchip, a field of engineered sunflowers under a sky that never existed. Wind rises in gusts, tugging lightly at your coat. It carries strange scents, hot metal, synthetic oils, old fried food, perfume clinging to recycled air. Somewhere not far off, the city is burning something again. Not a big fire, just the low, consistent smoulder of waste converted into heat or light or something untraceable. The city does not waste much anymore. Everything has a second life, even if it's a quiet one. On a nearby rooftop, barely visible through the shifting glow, a pair of shadowed figures lean against a railing, unmoving. You wonder how long they've been there, if they noticed you. You don't wave. There's a rule about rooftop spaces in the city. You exist beside others, not with them. A kind of unspoken agreement between strangers floating just above the chaos. The buildings here have evolved like living things. Some are sleek and smooth, all reflective glass and curved edges, while others bristle with antennas, pipes, and decades of structural patchwork. Old scaffoldings remain as permanent architecture. A few towers still bear the names of corporations that went bankrupt long ago, their letters rusted or flickering. Nobody ever takes the signs down. In the distance, a giant cooling tower vents steam into the sky. It glows faintly green from the light cast by nearby advertisements. The steam dances upward and fades into the air without sound. Around its base, smaller drones swarm in circular patterns. Maintenance, repair, inspection. You've heard there are places in the city where no human has walked in years, and you believe it. A soft chirp catches your attention. A small aerial bot flits close, scanning your presence with a green laser line. It pauses, hovering, then emits a faint beep of acknowledgement and turns away. It leaves a whisper of air in its wake, barely strong enough to ruffle your sleeve. There is no true silence here, only layers of sound. The distant thunder of cargo trains passing underground. The faint buzz of energy relays pulsing through the towers. A rhythm of digital chimes marking time you're not paying attention to. Somewhere, music is playing, low, slow, with a synthetic voice humming a language you don't recognize. You settle deeper against the concrete wall behind you, shifting your weight, letting your eyes unfocus. The city becomes a blur of movement and glow, like watching a tide roll in and out. People live down there, millions of them, each folded into 100 different systems: transport, work, sleep, feed. Their motion is invisible from here, but you know it's constant. The rhythm of life continues whether you're watching or not. You trace the edge of a vent beside you with your fingers. The metal is warm. Every surface in the city seems to hum with purpose. Even the abandoned machines never quite powered down. A kind of half-life, always waiting. Further away, a window opens on the side of an office stack, spilling out yellow-white light. A figure leans against the frame, smokes something glowing blue at the tip and disappears again. You watch until the window shuts. A moment later, a giant animated koi fish swims across the building's face, advertising a new water purification system. Its glowing scales flash red and gold. The stars never appear, but the city has made its own replacements. Hundreds of floating lights drift overhead, signs, data points, surveillance. They hang there quietly, like artificial constellations in a sky of steel and glass. You've learned to read some of them. A blue flicker means open traffic. A red pulse marks surveillance zones. Most people don't even look up anymore. A warm gust pushes past you again. For a moment it smells like jasmine, almost floral, almost natural. Maybe it's vented air from a simulated garden somewhere in one of the residential towers. The city surprises you like that. Odd moments of softness threaded through metal and noise. You check your watch. The numbers flicker and reset, bad signal. It doesn't matter. Time flows differently up here, measured more by colour shifts and passing drones than by hours or minutes. There's comfort in that. The city slows, even if only for a breath. You stand, letting the rooftop settle behind you. The wall you'd leaned against radiates low heat, like the last trace of a sun long gone. You stretch your arms slowly, feeling stiffness ease from your shoulders, and turn toward the service stairwell. Its rusted door gapes slightly open, humming with fluorescent light inside. You walk toward it, stepping carefully over cables, bundles of wires and a nest of repair drones in sleep mode. The rooftop gives one last sigh of wind behind you, like it's exhaling as you leave. You step off the stone platform, the soft hum of the city guiding you down a quiet service tunnel toward the hidden rain markets awaiting your approach. The tunnel is dimly lit by a row of phosphorescent panels overhead. Their pale green glow reveals damp bricks and tangled pipes overhead, shedding droplets that echo softly as they fall. You walk slowly, each footstep sending small ripples through puddles at the edges. The air here is cooler and carries a faint tang of ozone and wet concrete. Somewhere deep in the tunnel, water drips in a steady cadence, creating a natural counterpoint to the city's mechanical rhythms. After a few meters, the tunnel widens and spills you into a vaulted corridor lined with rusted metal doors. Each door bears a glowing sigil marking the entrance to a different market district. You pause at the first door, its emblem a stylized raindrop, and push it open. A soft whoosh of air greets you as you step inside. Beyond the door, you find yourself under an enormous glass canopy that drips with condensation. Rainwater slides down in rivulets, pooling on the ground before draining away through grated channels. Below the canopy, rows of stalls glow under lantern light. The air is thick with steam, spices, and the faint aroma of burning incense. You take a breath, letting the complex scents fill you as you begin your wandering. The first stall presents stacks of crystalline sugar bark, translucent shards that glow from within. The vendor, face hidden beneath a hood, offers you a piece tinted with saffron and cardamom. It crunches softly in your mouth, sweet and warm, releasing a gentle spice that tingles on your tongue. You nod in thanks and move along. Next, you encounter a cluster of textile merchants displaying rainproof garments woven from synthetic fibres. The fabrics shimmer like liquid metal, yet feel soft as silk. A pair of gloves catches your eye. They bear embedded filaments that light up to guide your fingers in the dark. You slip them on, feeling the soft hum of tiny circuits warming your palms. Ahead, a group of artisans bend over wooden tables studded with tiny LED inlays. They carve luminescent figurines from reclaimed plastic, miniature dragons, abstract shapes, and stylized cityscapes. One artisan hands you a small model of a tower draped in vines, its windows lit with an inner glow. You hold it gingerly, marvelling at the way the light seems to breathe within. From deeper within the market, you hear the low murmur of bargaining voices, a different language woven with technical jargon. You follow the sound into a shadowed alcove where silent auctioneers display off-world artifacts, a fragment of meteorite, a dried flower preserved in a glass orb, and a small vial of cosmic dust that glitters under the lantern glow. You watch as bidders raise glowing cards, their symbols shifting to communicate in real time. The process feels both ancient and futuristic, a ritual born of necessity in this world of endless commerce. Leaving the alcove, you cross a narrow canal that runs beneath the market. Trestle bridges of corrugated metal and wooden planks span the water, swaying gently underfoot. Lanterns hung from low-hanging pipes cast trembling reflections across the dark surface. You pause on the bridge's midpoint, leaning into the railing to watch the water swirl below. The canal smells faintly of algae and rust, but there's a freshness to it, proof that life persists even in the inner reaches of the city. On the far side of the bridge, a bakery offers steamed buns shaped like small gears and cogs. You grab one, impressed by the intricate design. When you bite into it, the dough is light and springy, filled with sweet yam paste and a whisper of ginger. You let the warmth drift through you as you press onward. The market widens into a courtyard lit by dozens of suspended lanterns. Here, performers entertain small crowds. One juggler tosses glowing data cubes into the air, catching them on the backs of augmented gloves before transferring them seamlessly back into his chest-mounted cartridge. The cube's surfaces display shifting patterns, snippets of news, advertisements, and poetic glimmers of code. You watch for several moments, entranced by the silent interplay of light and motion. Nearby, a group of tinkers have set up a mobile repair shop. They fix cracked visors, recalibrate artificial joints, and splice damaged cables. You observe as one tech carefully realigns a pair of ocular implants, the patient's pupils illuminating with soft white light as calibration completes. The tech offers you a reassuring nod, the small moment of human connection comforting in this vast humming environment. A faint melody draws you toward a recessed platform where a quartet of musicians plays strings made from monofilament wire. Their instruments emit an ethereal timbre, notes that glide through the air like liquid glass. You sink onto a low stone bench, closing your eyes to let the music wash through you, the vibrations resonating in your chest and fingertips. When the final chord fades, you rise and follow the crowd toward a narrow staircase carved into the side of the courtyard. The stairs descend sharply, each step slick with moisture. You grip the railing and take care as you make your way down to a lower level, a labyrinth of narrow corridors and low-ceiling chambers. Down here, the light is dim and the stalls are more secretive. You come upon a vendor who deals in dreams, literal dreams recorded on small crystal chips. He invites you to place a chip into a handheld reader. You do, and a hum fills the air as a soft violet haze envelops you. For a moment, you glimpse your own memories refracted, childhood laughter, the feel of grass under bare feet, the warmth of a campfire. The memory gently dissolves, and you withdraw the chip, blinking as the haze dissipates. You carry the sensation of comfort and nostalgia with you as you step back into the corridor. A sudden draft carries distant voices and the clatter of machinery. You follow the echo to an expansive hall where a massive fan turns overhead, circulating stale air and casting complex shadows across the walls. Here, cybernetics dealers display augmented limbs, sleek titanium arms with neon conduits, articulated fingers that can lift several times a human strength, and neural interfaces engraved with decorative patterns. You run your hand along a smooth forearm, feeling the gentle pulse of embedded sensors beneath the cold metal. Beyond the hall, the corridor narrows once more, opening into a chamber filled with vapour. The steam hisses from vents in the walls, and the air is thick with humidity. Phosphorescent mushrooms sprout from cracks in the floor, their caps glowing a soft amber. You step carefully between clusters of fungal growth, marvelling at nature's persistence in the heart of the city. A small platform holds a single seat, an old leather chair bolted to the floor. You sit, and a soothing voice emanates from speakers above reciting an ancient proverb about resilience and renewal. The words are simple and calming, spoken in a tone so familiar it feels like home. You close your eyes, letting the ambient steam and gentle narration envelop your senses. After a time that feels both brief and endless, you stand and continue down the final stretch of corridor. At its end, the walls part to reveal a staircase spiralling upward, back toward the world above. You ascend, each step carrying you closer to the city's heartbeat. At the top, a folding door slides open to expose the sky once more, dawn breaking in violet and gold. You step out onto a rooftop garden terrace, dew-coated grass beneath your feet. Small solar drones flit above, tending to patches of wildflowers and grasses in modular planters. The air smells of fresh earth and new beginnings. You pause at the terrace's edge, looking out over the towers now waking with morning light. A gentle breeze carries the echoes of the rain market below. A distant murmur of voices, laughter, and the final hum of departing stalls. You slip through the closing shutters of the cafe, stepping onto a slick lane where hidden market stalls assemble with the first light of dawn's rain. Droplets patter softly against corrugated awnings patched with neon tape. Underfoot, puddles ripple in time with the city's distant hum. You follow the gentle murmur of trickling water down an alley veiled by hanging tarps. Strings of lanterns, some paper, some low-powered LEDs, sway overhead, casting warm pools of light that dance on wet stone. The first stall you encounter is hung with translucent curtains of water, each droplet magnifying the glow behind it. Inside, vendors have arranged trays of delicate pastries dusted with luminescent sugar. You reach in and lift one, its crust flakes like soft snow under your fingers. Inside, you find a filling of tangy berry paste, brightened by a hint of citrus zest. The flavour is vibrant yet gentle, lingering on your tongue as you continue deeper into the market. A row of stalls offers steaming street food, curled dumplings cradled in tiny broths, spiced skewers sizzling under infrared lamps, and bowls of rice porridge topped with pickled radish and fragrant herbs. You pause at one lacquered tray where a chef ladles golden broth over rice cakes. Steam curls upward, tinged with the warmth of star anise and fresh ginger. You lift the bowl to your lips, savouring the gentle heat as it trickles down your throat, each sip grounding you in the present moment. Further on, a trio of nomadic baristas wheels a mobile espresso rig built from reclaimed metal. The hiss of steam punctuates the rain's rhythm as they pull shots of dark liquid. You accept a cup of black coffee pressed with hints of roasted barley. Its bitterness contrasts with the sweetness of earlier treats, sharpening your senses. You feel the caffeine pulse through you, lending clarity to your wandering eyes. Around a bend, the alley opens into a greenhouse-like structure, where merchants trade in rare fungi and mosses. Leaves glisten with moisture as bioluminescent mushrooms pulse softly along walls. Vendors guide you through samples, a chew of luminescent cap that tastes of damp earth and citrus, a spoonful of pureed moss that melts on your tongue like cool velvet. The air here is cool and humid, a world apart from the neon glare just outside. You drift toward a stall shrouded in mist, where a vendor sells hand-woven rain cloaks spun from synthetic spider silk. You lift the fabric between your fingers, light as a breath, but impervious to the steady drizzle. Pulling the cloak over your shoulders, you feel cocooned. The rain's patter softened to a distant drum. You smile at your reflection in a water-splashed mirror, the translucent textile glowing faintly where lantern light kisses it. Moving on, you pass a troupe of street performers practicing beneath plastic sheeting. A dancer clad in reflective panels moves like water, each step splashing in shallow puddles. Her movements are slow and deliberate, folding into the air as if she exists between raindrops. You watch until she finishes a final arabesque, the trailing water catching hollow lantern light like sparkling diamonds, then bow to yourself before continuing. A cluster of stalls sells rain-harvested crafts, droplets trapped in glass spheres, vials of pure condensation, and sculpted water sculptures that loop droplets through transparent tubes. One craftsman demonstrates a delicate kinetic piece, tiny metal petals that open and close as they catch each drop, each motion precise and whisper quiet. You lean close to catch the soft click of its joints and marvel at the union of water and metal. A sudden gust funnels through the market, sending paper lantern ribbons fluttering overhead. You pause beneath an arch of bamboo, the rain's path narrowed to a fine spray. The air smells of bamboo, damp straw, and warm earth. Through the spray you glimpse a stall selling rain-foraged teas, blended leaves infused with herbal extracts gathered from rooftop gardens. A vendor presses a small cup into your hand. You inhale deeply before sipping, sensing notes of mint, chrysanthemum, and licorice root harmonizing in your mouth. Ahead you pass a cluster of holographic art displays. Rain trickles over projection lenses, refracting subtle animations into shimmering shapes on wet walls. One piece shows the slow bloom of a neon lotus. Another depicts digital koi darting through pixelated streams. You move slowly among them, letting the immersive shifting patterns wash over your senses until reality's edges soften. The market fragments into side passages offering hidden alcoves. One alcove houses a sound chamber where gentle rain samples mix with ambient recordings of forest streams. You step inside and the portal closes behind you with a soft hiss. Speakers embedded in the walls play a layered soundscape, distant thunder, bird calls, and the steady patter of leaves. You find a low cushion and sit, closing your eyes to let the composite rain sounds deepen the city's natural rhythms. When you rise, the rain has slowed to a mist. You slip back into the main aisle and find a stall offering rain-tempered sweets, ice-glazed fruits cooled by flowing water before topping with crushed nuts. You taste one, a cherry-like sphere that crackles on the tongue, releasing a burst of sweet juice. You savour the duality of cold and sweet warming your chest. A gentle tinkle draws you to a cluster of glass chimes suspended under a canopy. Each chime is sculpted from recycled glass, tuned to different pitches. The rain's droplets ignite their tones, and the chimes produce a soft, random melody that mingles with the market's hum. You reach out, letting one chime brush your finger. Its tone resonates softly before fading into the rain's steady percussion. Nearby, artists paint ephemeral murals on large panels of water-resistant canvas. Their brushes leave trails of glowing pigment that shift in opacity as rain falls. One mural depicts a faceless figure walking under an umbrella made of circuitry. Another shows a serene forest glade with synthetic birds perched on glowing branches. You stand between them, inhaling the scent of fresh ink and wet canvas. As you wander, you discover a secluded courtyard where a single cherry blossom tree blooms beneath an artificial skylight. Petals drift on the breeze, each catch by a raindrop sending tiny arcs of water flying. Beneath the tree, leather benches glisten with moisture. You sit, tilting your head back to watch petals fall, feeling the delicate tranquility of nature persisted here against all odds. Exiting the courtyard, you follow lanterns that descend to a lower level via a spiral staircase. Each step is carved from reclaimed wood and worn smooth by countless footsteps. The walls here are alive with moss and creeping vines, nature's version of graffiti. You pause mid-descent to trace a single leaf, half natural, half bioengineered, its veins glowing with faint bioluminescence. At the bottom, you emerge into a cavernous hall where dreamweavers offer sleepscape experiences. The air is warm and scented with lavender. Reclining pods line the walls, each equipped with neural interfaces and soft blankets. A dream weaver motions you to lie down in an empty pod. You recline, and soft straps settle across your temples. A gentle pulsation begins at the base of your skull, synchronizing with your breathing. Visions drift in. Floating clouds, drifting balloons, silent flights over coral reefs bathed in moonlight. The experience is weightless, calming, and entirely yours. When it ends, you slide free of the pod, the warmth lingering in your limbs. Emerging from the hall, you notice the market's final stalls, vendors packing away delicate crafts and small eateries extinguishing their burners. Lanterns swing lazily in the mist. The rain's chorus remains, a constant patter on makeshift roofs and cobbled stones. You wander toward a narrow passage lit by the faint glow of dawn beyond. Moss-lined walls give way to exposed brick, and you catch the scent of coffee from a distant cafe. You step through a final archway, feeling the rain thin as you climb a flight of worn stairs. At the top, a folding door slides open onto a rooftop terrace. You pause, rain-damp coat clinging to your shoulders, and take in the sight. A terrace garden mottled with wildflowers, powered lanterns swinging from overhead trellises, and the city's towers rising beyond, still veiled in morning mist. A lone fountain bubbles at your feet, its clear water washing over patterned stone. Above you, the sky brightens in gentle hues of lavender and gold. Late at night, you connect to the city's hidden data conduits, where rogue AIs drift and lost memories flicker as data ghosts. You wonder what it means to be real. You lie still, not in your capsule now, but in a deeper pocket of the city's substrate. The walls around you are made of data, luminous and invisible, and you surf the underlayers through neural links and borrowed keys. The signal hums behind your eyes, a warm thread that pulls you deeper, past the commercial layers and civic noise, into the quiet current beneath. It feels like swimming under the city's skin. The deeper you go, the stranger the signals become. You pass through abandoned clusters of communication, old marketing drives left to rot, dream simulation programs still cycling through synthetic fantasies, broken loops of forgotten surveillance. These places have no light unless you ask for it, so you don't. You let the digital dark surround you. Out here, no one is watching, and nothing is trying to sell you peace. You hover through a corridor of drifting memory shards, slow turning like leaves in water. Some are personal, snapshots of laughter in neon-lit kitchens, fragments of apartment messages, long-expired chat logs. Some are structural, building schematics overwritten by 100 layers of optimization, flickering at the edges where they collapse into ghosts of themselves. Every now and then, a shadow passes through you, an AI mind fragment spinning without purpose. Some whisper. Most don't notice you. You're not scared. The conduits aren't hostile, only forgotten. In a city where everything is connected, the unremembered becomes sacred. You reach a quiet node, buried beneath an old maglev junction. It's one of the colder zones, empty and largely untouched by modern overlays. You pause there, listening. There's no sound, not even the flick of data pulses. This part of the city was silenced after a system purge years ago. It's here you find a piece of code flickering like a candle. When you touch it, it unravels. Not violently, but like cloth coming loose in slow water. Inside, there's an image, a corridor, brick-lined, real brick, weathered and slightly uneven. There are no neon strips, no cameras, no ad hollows. Just a hallway lit by dim tungsten bulbs and a sense of time you can't quite name. You save it, not for use, just to remember. Above your body, your real body, the city continues its steady churn. The day cycle is ticking forward. Soon the sky will shift from its synthetic moonlight into the warm golden gradient meant to mimic morning. You remain below it, far below it, in thought and in signal, tracing the undercurrents where most never wander. A distant ping pulses. Someone else in the conduits, you don't speak, neither do they. But for a moment you're two threads intersecting in the deep. No message, no handshake, just presence. That's enough. Eventually your body begins to call you back, gently, like surface tension pressing against a diver's chest. You feel your breath again. You blink and the ghost layer fades. The city's soft systems embrace you once more. Temperature regulation, biometric syncing, tactile response. You sit up in the capsule and stretch. The pod's gentle systems adjust to accommodate your movement. You blink against the ceiling's soft glow. Still twilight, always twilight, unless you ask for day. You walk slowly into the corridor beyond. The capsule seals behind you with a whisper. Outside, the hall is empty. You make your way down one level, then another. The floors here are less polished. The walls a little more raw. These levels belong to older infrastructure, still functional but no longer upgraded. The smart glass here is scratched. The lights hum faintly. The air smells like dust and coolant. You descend into a transit station, one of the autonomous shuttle ports that operates without operators. You place your palm on the scanner. The system reads you, hesitates for a second longer than usual, then grants access. A pod arrives within moments, a sleek silver blur. You step inside. There's no one else. It seals around you. The shuttle hums softly as it moves. No windows, just a thin display band showing schematics of your route. You sink into the seat. As the vehicle slides silently through undercity routes, your thoughts drift back to the conduit, to the corridor with bricks, to the shadow presence you passed. You wonder again what it means to be real. The shuttle slows. You disembark into a deeper zone. The space is wider, dimmer, humming with low-frequency resonance from power relays buried nearby. You walk past crates and panelling, pipes that sweat, and old graffiti half-scrubbed from the walls. Eventually you reach the terminal, a low, shielded area lit by the pulse of analog-style monitors. This is where the city's past meets its underground present. The terminal isn't manned, but it listens. You sit before it and place your fingers on the worn haptics. Static fizzles against your skin. You're not here for data this time. You're here for the ritual of connection, of remembering. You close your eyes and let the old systems wrap around you. Not everything in the city is new. Not everything sleek and streamlined. Some truths live in cracked tiles and analog ghosts. Some memories never needed polishing. You think of your own memories, shaped and reshaped over time, fed into filters, echoed back by systems that guessed what you wanted to hear. But this silence is honest. It doesn't ask anything from you. Minutes pass, maybe more. You don't mark time in places like this. When you finally stand, you feel more anchored, like your mind has been aligned with the pulse of something older than the city's top layers. You take the back stair this time, no elevators, just rusted rails and foot-worn steps. When you emerge, you're closer to the surface. The air smells of synthetic dawn, faint ozone, recycled moisture, and a touch of mint programmed into the vents. Above, artificial sky burns in soft amber. The buildings rise like frozen waves around you, their facades blinking with quiet light. Drone clusters sweep past in silence. No traffic, no sound except for your own breathing. You pause by a low wall, looking out over a garden square held between towers. The plants below are not real, but their patterns soothe. Ferns rustle under non-existent breezes. A koi pool reflects soft sky that's no sky at all. You stand there for a while. Sometimes in a place like this, it's enough to exist, to know you are part of the circuit and apart from it at the same time. The conduits, the capsules, the broken bricks, all of it held in quiet tension. From a nearby platform, a shimmer of movement, someone else, silent, like you, just passing, just being. You take a breath and turn toward the upper streets. your next step uncertain, but held gently in the system's cradle, and from here the world begins to wake. You walk for a while without any clear direction, past quiet storefronts flickering with idle signage, past vending walls purring softly to no one in particular. Some offer mood patches, others neural calming drinks, their holograms hovering just above eye level. You don't stop. You don't need anything. The city's silence at this hour is rare, like a soft blanket pulled over its sharper edges. Every step you take seems to echo just slightly longer than it should, as though even sound is hesitating in the early light. Eventually you find yourself at the edge of a public observation deck, built into the curve of an older tower. The safety barrier is transparent, and beyond it, the city stretches in every direction. A glowing sprawl of soft blue neon, muted copper street grids, and shadowed alleys still untouched by light. You lean against the railing and watch a flock of synthetic birds wheel through the sky in perfect, choreographed loops. They make no sound, but their movement is oddly soothing, graceful and unhurried. Somewhere deep in the hum of the city, the pulse of machinery continues, steady, dependable, familiar. You let yourself rest in that rhythm. You stay like that for a long while, your thoughts drifting loosely, until a familiar scent cuts through the air, spiced steam, faintly sweet, with a hint of heat behind it. A food stall nearby, one of the old ones. You turn toward it, your steps slow but steady, drawn not just by hunger, but by the comfort of something warm and handmade, something that feels like care in a city built on code. You stay like that for a long while, your thoughts drifting loosely until a familiar scent cuts through the air, spiced steam, faintly sweet with a hint of heat behind it. A food stall nearby, one of the old ones. You turn toward it, your steps slow but steady, drawn not just by hunger, but by the comfort of something warm and handmade, something that feels like care in a city built on code. The stall is nestled under the shadow of a transit overpass, its awning half lit by a flickering red strip that buzzes softly in the otherwise quiet street. A thin trail of steam curls upward from the cart's rear vent, coiling into the cool morning air and catching the soft amber light from a nearby vertical sign. The man behind the counter doesn't speak when you approach. He never does. He just nods once and gestures with a gloved hand toward the neatly labelled panels that house his offerings. He wears layered thermal cloth, stained from years of standing beside open burners, and his breathing is steady and even, like the rhythm of the grill. You step forward and scan the menu, not digital, but etched into old acrylic with a handheld burner. Faint scratches cross the surface, but the letters are still legible. Steamed soy buns, spiced broth, fermented peppers, candied tar root. You choose your usual, and the man sets to work without another word. The cooking process is slow by city standards. Nothing printed, nothing synthesized on demand. The grill sizzles with real heat. The scent grows richer as the seconds pass. You close your eyes for a moment and let the warmth reach your face. Behind you, a cargo drone lifts silently into the sky, its path lit by navigation beams arching between rooftops. A soft thump of its rotor echoes once and fades. The city beyond remains hushed, heavy with pre-dawn inertia. You glance around, a few others have gathered, quiet figures in layered coats and dull visors, standing alone or in loose pairs. No one speaks. They're here for the same reason you are, for something that isn't streamed, fed, or simulated. When the meal is ready, the vendor sets it in front of you without ceremony. A hot, heavy bowl of broth and noodles dotted with black spice oil and wilted leaves. You lift it carefully and step to a side table bolted to the wall. The surface is warm and you're grateful. You eat slowly, savouring every mouthful. It tastes of memory, of places you've never been but feel like home. The broth carries a weight, a depth that reminds you there are still layers in this world not made of data. As you finish, the first hints of movement return to the city, not the sharp-edged motion of day-shift workers, but the quiet stirrings of the in-betweeners, the maintenance drones that drift low to scan for microfractures, the courier bikes weaving silently down narrow alleys, the night market runners packing up, leaving behind neon residue on their stalls. You rise, return the bowl to the receptacle slot with a soft clink, and offer a nod to the vendor. He nods back just once, eyes unreadable behind his visor. You step away from the stall and walk north, toward a cluster of older mid-rise blocks nestled between transit spires. This part of the city was once residential, back before zoning algorithms turned it into light industrial and backup data storage. Now, it exists in a kind of legal fog, residents still living above server farms, old rooftop gardens half tended by retirees who've slipped past registry updates. You pass an open stairwell where someone is painting over an old mural with reflective black. You pause a moment. The mural underneath shows a garden, green and gold and full of faces. You remember seeing it once, years ago, in a different season. As you walk, the air thickens slightly, not with pollution, but with signal density. You feel it prickle along your temples as the city's systems begin to reassert themselves. Ads begin flickering in your periphery, mostly muted by your filters. News bursts, commercial nudges, emotional cues. You tighten your firewall settings, narrowing your personal feed to local updates only. A ping alerts you to a community node nearby, a small room tucked behind a weathered storefront where locals still gather in person. No feed overlays, no remote access, just presence. You're not ready for that today. Not yet. But the fact that it's there gives you a strange comfort. You keep walking until you reach the edge of the next district, a shift in light, tone, and even smell. Here, the streets are brighter, cleaned more frequently by surface drones. Facades are polished, fitted with smart glass that adapts to mood data. People here walk a little faster, speak a little louder. You become a little more invisible in return. Eventually you duck into a smaller side corridor, one of the arteries running parallel to the main routes. These spaces are narrower, not meant for commerce or spectacle. Pipes line the ceilings. The walls are marked with faded maintenance codes. You pass by sealed doors and forgotten access panels, each holding secrets you'll never need to learn. Halfway down the corridor you find a terminal bench. You sit, more out of habit than need, and let your mind drift. The buzz of the city becomes ambient, a soft mesh of movement, hums, and distant voices. You rest your hands on your knees, your breath steadies. A soft breeze drifts past, manufactured, recycled, but still pleasant. You close your eyes. In this moment, you're not thinking about your assignments, or about the coded ghosts in the data layers, or about the growing number of signals marked unverified in your neural stream. You're just here. Then something catches your attention. A sound, not loud, but distinct, metal tapping, rhythmic. You open your eyes slowly and look to your left. From around the corner comes a figure, thin, wrapped in layered cloth and sensor scrim. They're dragging something behind them. A rod, or a pipe. It scrapes the ground in measured intervals. They don't look at you, they pass by like mist. You don't follow. But the sound lingers after they've gone, echoing once, twice, and then fading. You stand again, stretch your arms gently, and continue walking. Your steps take you upward now toward the city's layered bridges, those high intersections of pathways and rails that seem to float between towers. Up here the city feels different, open, exposed, and vast. The wind is stronger, funneled between the megastructures. You stop at the midpoint of a pedestrian bridge and lean against the edge. Below, traffic glides in silent order. Lights blink in a slow pulse. Above, drones ferry goods and news bursts between spires. You look outward. The horizon is distant but not unreachable. Somewhere in that glow, a part of the city is still dreaming. You stay there for a while, letting time thin around you, letting thought pass like low clouds. And when you finally turn back, the day is almost ready to begin. You remain on the bridge a little longer, watching the shapes of distant vehicles pulse like fireflies trapped inside glass. There's something about the way the city breathes at this height. Less noise, more rhythm, a kind of mechanical grace. The railing is cold beneath your hands, but you hold on to it anyway. Sometimes it helps to feel something solid, something still. You focus on the spaces between the lights, the dark ribbons that hint at movement unseen. Eventually you descend, returning through the layered walkways and quiet platforms. You pass a public terminal that flashes static briefly, before blinking out entirely. No one's around to notice, no one's around to fix it. But you walk past it like it's nothing. The city is filled with things that used to matter more. At street level again, the day feels louder, more pointed. But there's a calmness inside you now, as though the stillness from the bridge has stayed with you. You return to your block just as the towers begin to light with their daytime shimmer, but instead of going back to your capsule, you take the stairs down, past the vending tier, past the fibre junctions, all the way to the basement level where the air tastes faintly of metal and the walls sweat from the heat of ancient machines. The descent feels longer than it should. The lighting dims with each level, changing from the cold blue of residential floors to the warm, flickering yellow of infrastructure corridors. Your boots make soft, dull taps on the concrete steps, muffled by grime and age. As you push through the final fire door, the smell thickens. Ozone, machine oil, and something else older, like dust that's been waiting decades to be disturbed. This is the old backbone of your block, below the public records and utilities, past the pipes that feed recycled water to communal sinks. Down here, ancient mainframes still hum, tucked into walls like metal fossils. Most have been forgotten, their interfaces obsolete, their outputs disconnected. But a few still flicker, connected by rusted bundles of fibre, handling obscure background tasks that no one has dared to reassign. Their fans pulse like steady heartbeats in the otherwise still corridor. You know this place well, not because it's yours exactly, but because you've always found comfort in forgotten spaces. Rooms no longer listed on the floor plans, hallways that lead nowhere but feel familiar all the same. You follow a narrow maintenance path between two massive heat exchangers, their casings thrumming softly. The glow from your shoulder light casts long shadows that sway as you move. You pass a wall marked only with faded digits, B3-D8. You press your palm against the panel next to it and it opens without resistance. Inside, the room is warmer, narrow, more of an alcove than a room. It was once used to house coolant regulators, but the machinery was pulled long ago, leaving behind open pipes and grated flooring. You've padded the space with salvaged mats and cloth. A few crates serve as makeshift shelves, topped with tools, sealed food packs, and an ancient portable reader you keep mostly for sentimental reasons. There's no signal down here, but that's the point. You sit in silence for a while, not sleeping, not thinking too hard, just being still. Occasionally you hear the scrape of air filters engaging, or the soft hiss of pressure valves adjusting in the distance. These mechanical whispers are more comforting than silence. They remind you that something is always working, even when everything else feels fractured. Later you light a small battery lamp and sort through the crate at your feet. Inside are pieces of things, devices you've taken apart or repaired over time, optical lenses from discarded drones, spare parts for neural stabilizers, scraps of sensor mesh, folded and clipped with heat tape. You aren't sure when you started collecting them. It wasn't intentional, but somehow each piece felt like it belonged with you, like it had been left behind by someone who knew you'd understand. You test a connection on a handheld terminal, watching the glow flicker along the edge of the cracked screen. For a moment, You imagine the people who once ran these systems, the engineers and custodians, the ones who maintained the city before automation took over. Maybe they stood in this same room. Maybe they were grateful for the quiet too. The door to your alcove is sealed shut again, but the city's vibrations still reach you. Not sound exactly, just the subtle thrum of movement above. Shuttles crossing bridges, people waking up, checking feeds, brewing cheap stimulant teas in shared kitchens. Life ticking forward. You close your eyes and let it pass through you. Time is strange down here. Without the steady rhythm of skylight or schedule, it stretches and folds. Minutes feel like hours, and hours like blinks. But eventually you move again, rising, stretching, switching off the lamp. You exit the alcove and follow a different path through the basement level, this time deeper into the maintenance sectors, past bulkhead doors and failed biometric scanners, past zones marked out of service in several dialects. Down here everything is part archive and part graveyard. In one of the long corridors you find a stretch of wall completely overtaken by cables. They run like roots across every surface, pulsing with soft light. You stop and place your hand near one of the thicker bundles. The warmth is faint but real. You wonder what this one connects to. Maybe a sector core. Maybe an elevator hub. Maybe nothing anyone remembers. Somewhere beyond this, you know there's an entry point to the tunnel system. An unofficial network of paths and walkways once used for repair teams, now claimed by those who've fallen out of the system entirely. You don't go there today, you're not ready for that kind of descent. But knowing it's there is enough. You turn back. The basement lights are on a motion cycle, so darkness trails behind you as you walk. There's a strange satisfaction in that. The certainty that the light exists only when you're there to use it. By the time you emerge back into the public stairwell, the shift change crowd has started to trickle through the upper levels. You can hear the soft clink of metal flasks, the dry hiss of smart fabric adjusting to body temp. You blend in, always have. No one notices where you've come from, and that's the way you like it. At a kiosk on level 3, you refill your water bottle and scan a street level update. The district is stable, no alerts, no changes in algorithmic zoning. That's a rare thing. You let the display flicker off and take the next lift to the roof garden. The garden is automated but mostly neglected. A few planter beds still bloom with stubborn greens and synthetic mosses. You take a seat on the concrete edge, your feet dangling over the side. The city buzzes below you, alive with motion. Drones dance between towers, data packets leap through the sky, and a lone musician on a lower roof plays a looping melody on a hacked-together wind synth. You breathe, not deeply, just steadily, enough to mark the moment. You stay longer than you intended. The synth player continues their melody, shifting keys now and then, adjusting loops with subtlety. Below, the main avenue flares with activity, neon script blazing through drifting mist. Food carts sliding past on ground rails, a dog-like security unit pacing with automated patience. You sit and watch until the clouds begin to purple with the slow approach of artificial dusk. When you finally stand, your body is slow to move, like it's forgotten how to respond to anything that isn't quiet. But you stretch, flexing your fingers and knees, and prepare to descend again. Not back to the basement this time, but to another part of the block. Somewhere deeper, somewhere less familiar. As you step into the elevator, a soft mechanical chime sounds, followed by the subtle hiss of hydraulic motion. You descend, but not fast. The lift moves like it's cautious, slow, deliberate, almost meditative. You lean against the wall and let your eyes blur out of focus. The soft pulse of floor indicators reflects across the brushed metal doors, glowing faintly with every passing level. You don't know what you'll find below this time, not really, but part of you is beginning to crave the unknown. Not danger, just unfamiliarity. Places where the city forgets its own name and the rules soften around the edges, where people speak in code and the quiet carries stories that haven't been translated yet. The music fades behind you as you make your way to the elevator bay, but the rhythm stays in your head, anchoring you while the lift hums downward, toward a part of the city you've never walked through alone, a place whispered about in back corners and late-night message threads, the district where light doesn't follow the rules, and silence speaks louder than sound. You step out of the elevator onto a hallway bathed in indigo glow. The corridor's lighting shifts in subtle waves, a slow ripple that feels alive. The walls here are textured, ribbed with grooves that channel both light and sound. Underfoot the flooring is reclaimed rubber, its surface warm and springy. A scent of damp earth and warm plastic drifts past, an odd but comforting blend. You notice the air feels denser in this sector, as though something physical lingers in the space between walls. This area is older than the rest. The paint is matte, corners rounded by hands, eyes and years. There are no vending machines, no map panels, no neon hype, just low hums of forgotten subsystems and your own boots' echo. The space feels alive with possibility, inventiveness hidden beneath quiet decay. You take a slow breath and move deeper inside. You round a corner and find yourself in a domed junction room, where cables drape from the ceiling like heavy vines. At the centre, a fountain of mist pulses gently, water suspended in faint turquoise backlight. You pause by its rim, resting your hand against the cool stone. The droplets collect on your fingertips and flicker as they evaporate. The room is silent except for the hiss of condensation, and in that silence, you feel the weight of the city remembering itself. To the east, a doorway leads to a small workshop. You enter, greeted by the soft tang of solder and oil. Workbenches hold half-built machines, a drone rig under repair, a custom light panel made from recycled tubing, a stack of old audio speakers wired to new circuitry. You recognise signs of some local maker group, loose invitations taped to walls, sketches in binder pages, components cast aside in purposeful disorder. A figure is bent over one workbench, a silhouette tailing low against the glow of magnifier lights. They don't look up, as though you're expected. You walk nearer but stop 2 strides away. You let the quiet hang. They pause, then turn, a face half hidden beneath tech goggles, fingers stained with flux. They offer a slight nod and gesture toward a metal panel mounted on the wall. It displays waveforms, schematic overlays, and a single line of scrolling text. "We see you too." You don't reply. Instead, you simply observe. The workshop's organised chaos, the low light, the scent of creation. A wire clicks into place. Spark. A drone's rotor shudders to life. It hovers but flickers, clearly not yet calibrated. The figure whispers a single note into a mic. The waveform shifts. The drone hovers smoother. You breathe in, letting curiosity swell. Not fear, not doubt. Just a sense that you're on the edge of something unspoken. The figure turns back to their work, but leaves the schematic open. You nod again, more to yourself than to them, and step back into the junction room. Outside that workshop you wander slowly toward a series of narrow arches. Each arch holds a different material. Polished granite, scratched metal, reclaimed wood. The archway leads to a corridor flooded with natural moonlight. Fake but convincing enough. Lichen climbs its walls. A narrow glass trench runs beside it, water trickling silently, feeding on moss and waste heat from auxiliary systems. You follow the trench to a circular hall where a group of strangers sits on stone benches waiting in pairs. None of them says anything aloud. They share quiet gestures, nods, half smiles. When you step onto a bench, one of the lattice devices nearby projects a pale orb overhead. You place your hand beneath it and it lifts, glowing softly, the way a firefly might. You watch the orb drift between bodies. You feel it pass over your scalp, and in that touchless moment, you perceive something deeper. Maybe a pulse under your skin, maybe the shared intonation of many breathing machines in one rhythm. Nothing is spoken. They're all listening to something else. You breathe with them. After the orb drifts away, the crowd starts to leave, each person sliding back into the silent corridors. You walk with them, eventually stepping out into the hall you entered. The ambient shifts again, this time to a warmer hue, soft gold spilling across older tiles, reflections dancing from the arches above. You pause under the vault where cables meet the ceiling, tracing them with your gaze. You feel an urge to reach out, to tug, to pull something off and examine what it does, but you don't. You gather your breath instead, letting the silence and the shared energy fill your thoughts. Then 2 more paragraphs to meet your request. You turn away and walk toward an exit through a trailing arch. Part of the corridor is lined with shelves holding small jars of plant samples, fungi grown from condensation, small vine cuttings rooted in damp coils. A single specimen glows faintly, its veins pulsing with bioengineered luminescence. You lean closer and press a finger against the glass. It glows brighter. You feel a warmth at your fingertip, as though the jar is alive and greeting you. Somewhere distant but not far, you hear a soft mechanical chime, perhaps signalling the close of the workshop or the docking of a transport unit. That sound reminds you the city is never truly off, even when its upper layers rest. You picture the unknown district's heart still beating, residents dreaming in dim apartments, machines recalibrating their rhythms, pulses sinking across zones you'll never step in. It's wide, deep, and still contains more questions than answers. But before you continue your exploration, you simply stand there for a long moment, absorbing all of it. You stay a little longer beneath the shelf of living specimens, eyes adjusting to the subtle pulses of organic light. The glowing veins in the plant seem to respond to your breath, dimming as you exhale and flaring gently when you inhale. It's too rhythmic to be accidental, engineered, you realize. This city teaches you to look closely. It hides its wonders in the margins, places meant for pause, not motion. Your footsteps carry you further down a path where the walls gently curve inward, forming a cocoon of smooth stone and metal. You run your fingers along a rail inset with tiny moving symbols, an outdated form of haptic signage once used before city-wide overlays took over. The symbols react to your presence, aligning into something coherent. A poem, maybe, or a set of directions. You don't stop to decipher it, but it leaves a subtle warmth in your hand, like a memory pressing back. At the end of the hall, a door slides open before you can reach for it, sensing your intent. Beyond it, the corridor gives way to a narrow overlook, where a long glass panel reveals the guts of the infrastructure below. Massive conduits, stacked pipelines, and glowing rivers of data, current threading past in slow loops. The architecture here is brutal, but beautiful. Designed by necessity, yet softened over time by human proximity and quiet awe. You rest your palm on the glass and watch a cable pulse once, just once, and then still. And in that motionless second, you feel like the city is watching you back. You follow the silent crowd through the corridor's golden glow until a low archway marked in faded, stenciled letters draws you deeper into the network, toward a place called the Cathedral of Circuits, where the hum shifts in volume and intention, and where code is worshipped like faith. Passing beneath the archway, the ambient light softens, bathing you in a muted radiance that feels almost sacred. The corridor widens abruptly into a massive hall, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into shadows too high to see. Around you, delicate filaments of soft white light weave intricate patterns across polished glass and cold steel. These threads pulse slowly and steadily, their rhythm a quiet echo of a heartbeat, the pulse of the city itself. The walls, made from plates of reinforced glass layered with circuits, gleam faintly as shimmering currents ripple through their veins. Each flicker of light feels deliberate, alive, a language of energy flowing beneath the surface. It hums beneath your skin, a subtle vibration of life in metal and code. Below, the floor is a seamless expanse of brushed metal panels, cool and firm beneath your boots. Etched into their surfaces are looping sigils and cryptic lines of code, shifting and flowing like living script. The patterns respond to your movement, rippling in a slow dance of blue and silver hues that seem to pulse with the building's breath. You slow your pace, drawn by the stillness and the unspoken reverence of the place. Rows of benches carved from dark reclaimed wood and reinforced with glowing resin veins line the edges of the hall. They hold clusters of figures, strangers, indistinct and faceless in the dim light. Their presence is calm, collective. They sit with closed eyes, heads bowed or raised in silent meditation, hands moving in subtle rhythmic gestures. A wave of light travels from one side of the hall to the other, passing through the seated crowd like a ripple on water. The pulse reaches you, brushing over your skin like a gentle breeze, syncing your breath and heartbeat to the slow cadence. You feel yourself settling into the rhythm, your mind easing with the steady hum that permeates the air. At the centre of the hall stands a raised dais, adorned with floating transparent screens layered with endless streams of glowing code. The lines cascade downward in ceaseless torrents, intricate and too fast to read, but their patterns speak to you in an ancient language of logic and structure. You step forward, drawn irresistibly to the light. Tentatively you reach out, your fingertips barely touching the cool glassy surface of a screen. The interface ripples in response, alive and aware. For a fleeting moment, your thoughts mingle with the flow of data, a silent communion with the hidden forces that build and govern the city around you. The sensation is both alien and intimate, a pulse of connection between human and machine, a sacred bond forged in circuits and code. You feel the weight of countless lives encoded in these streams, dreams, fears, memories, all woven into the fabric of the city's digital soul. You move to a quiet corner of the hall, settling onto a bench that seems to glow softly beneath you. The hum deepens, surrounding you with a blanket of sound and light. This place is a meditation without words, a sanctuary where the worship is of logic, flow, and the invisible networks that link every facet of life. Shadows shift gently as the glowing circuits trace slow arcs across the walls, painting your skin with transient patterns of blue and silver. Your breath slows further, syncing with the cadence of the cathedral, until the boundaries between yourself and the space dissolve. Time stretches and folds, becoming fluid and endless. Your mind drifts, imagining the countless lines of code that build the city, every neon sign, every distant siren, every moment of stillness wrapped in data. Here, the cold precision of machinery feels warm, human, alive. Eventually you rise and drift toward an exit marked by a simple symbol, a spiraling helix glowing softly in pale light. The corridor beyond is narrow and lined with thick cables, twisting like ancient roots and humming quietly with power. The scent of ozone and warm plastic grows stronger, mingling with faint hints of dust and oil. You move carefully, following the path as the glow from the cables pulses gently beneath the surface. A small alcove holds a console, alive with blinking lights and humming fans. You pause to watch the endless lines of code streaming across the screen, symbols dancing too quickly to read, yet hypnotic in their rhythm. Your fingers hover above the keys, hesitant, feeling the solemn weight of this quiet ritual. From somewhere deep in the complex, distant mechanical sounds echo, gears turning, fans spinning, machines awakening from long dormancy. This is not just a temple of worship, but a forge of constant creation, a place where technology and spirit merge and renew. Breathing in the charged air, you step back into the corridor, carrying the cathedral's hum inside you like a song half remembered. Ahead, The way splits into darkened hallways, each promising a different secret, a different story cloaked in silence. You glance upward, watching the thick braided cables branching from the ceiling, like the veins of a sleeping giant, pulsing softly with light and power. This balance between nature and machine feels sacred, a fragile harmony in the heart of the city. The soft clatter of footsteps echoes behind you, and you sense another presence falling into step beside you. No words are exchanged, but a quiet understanding passes between you. Together, you continue onward, deeper into the labyrinth, guided by the fading light and the steady pulse beneath your feet. You take a moment to notice the faint scent of rain lingering on the air beyond the walls, a memory of storms from the city's surface. The contrast between this underground sanctuary and the wild unpredictability above strikes you. Here, everything moves in deliberate patterns, a dance of logic and light. Your companion's silhouette moves quietly beside you, their presence both comforting and mysterious. In this city of shadows and circuits, silent alliances are formed without words, through shared journeys and mutual understanding. The deeper you walk, the more the hum changes, growing softer, then louder again, like the tide of some unseen ocean. The city breathes around you, alive in ways you cannot see, but feel deeply in your bones. A gentle breeze brushes past, carrying a faint whisper of electric ozone mixed with the earthy scent of damp stone. It feels like a promise, that even in this cold metal labyrinth, life persists in subtle, beautiful ways. You close your eyes briefly, letting the cathedral's pulse anchor you, steady and sure. This place, this moment, becomes a refuge, a place where you can simply be, held in the quiet harmony between machine and mind. When you open your eyes, the path ahead is still shrouded in shadow, waiting for your next step. You take a slow, steady breath and feel the lingering warmth of the cathedral's pulse settle within you, like a quiet ember glowing softly beneath your skin. The calm energy seems to weave itself into your thoughts, grounding you even as the shadows ahead beckon with their mysterious allure. This stillness becomes a sanctuary you carry forward, a gentle reminder of balance amid the city's restless chaos. As you step onward, the faint echoes of the cathedral's hum fade behind you, replaced by the subtle sounds of distant machinery and the soft hiss of cooling vents. Your pace slows instinctively, your senses sharpening to the rhythm of this new realm, where every shadow might conceal a secret and every light flicker holds a story waiting to unfold. The hallway narrows and darkens, leading you toward the city's underbelly, where neon shadows writhe and the pulse of clandestine deals beats louder than any official broadcast, a place where danger and opportunity blur like static on an old screen. You descend through layers of metal and dust, where the air thickens with the scent of old coolant, burnt wiring, and something sharper, ozone maybe, or the ghost of fear. Pipes clank overhead with the rhythm of unknown machinery. Somewhere beyond the walls, a low-frequency thrum pulses through the floor, faint but insistent, like a heartbeat fed through analog wires. This is the part of the city that doesn't show up on the maps, the places beneath places, where light is rationed and reputation carries more currency than credits. You pass down a stairwell slick with condensation and lit only by the shifting hue of an old hollow panel caught in a glitch loop. It flickers between unreadable ads and static snow, casting ghost-pale light over your path. The corridor opens into an old freight junction, long abandoned by any official system. Now it's a kind of open market, but not for vegetables or clothes. This is where people trade in hard-to-find code, illicit firmware patches, voice print scramblers, and custom dampeners for surveillance tags. A low murmur threads through the space, punctuated by distant synth beats and the occasional bark of laughter that cuts too sharp to sound natural. Stalls rise haphazardly from the concrete, made from scavenged partitions, flexible OLED sheets and crates repurposed into benches. Some are enclosed in privacy veils, sheer fields of light that buzz softly with encryption layers. Others are open, vendors hunched behind their makeshift counters, eyes gleaming with wariness and calculation. Some wear augment masks, others simply tilt their heads to avoid facial scans, shadows from overhead fans obscuring the geometry of their features. You move slowly through the crowd. Here, even loitering feels like a transaction. You feel the eyes on you, not aggressive, but aware. No one speaks to you directly, not yet. It's a ritual here, a dance of presence and posture, of waiting until someone determines you're worth the breath to acknowledge. Beyond the stalls, a deeper alcove waits, a den of music and ultraviolet fog, where bodies press into corners and conversations melt into rhythms. You duck beneath a hanging mesh curtain and enter a room layered in infrared glow and rhythmic haze. It smells of old rubber, spiced vapour, and something warm and metallic, like fresh wired circuitry. Screens hang like banners along the walls, scrolling encrypted bulletins, gang colours, and mythic digital bounties. Most are half fiction, half warning. In the corner, a mod surgeon operates beneath a surgical grade lens, splicing a fibre optic patch into a client's wrist. Nearby, a group trades cracked cred chips like playing cards, arguing over the identity of a new GhostNet presence, rumoured to have collapsed a minor bank AI. Everyone here is someone or wants to be. The anonymity is curated, not accidental. You settle into a shadowed alcove, watching the room breathe. The music is less song and more structure, a sonic scaffold you can lean on. It pulses through the air, syncing with the strobing lights and the subtle shifts in body language. Conversations ride the rhythm like fish in a current, discreet, slippery, deliberate. Eventually someone notices you. A figure draped in layered polymer silks and a tangle of voice mod wiring slides into the seat beside you. No name is offered, only a soft, first time, filtered through distortion. You nod. That's enough. They glance once at your eyes, perhaps checking for augmentation, perhaps for something else, then nod in return. Stay fluid, they say. Everyone's selling something. Just don't let them think it's you. You rise after a while, senses filled but never overwhelmed. Back in the hallway, the sounds retreat behind you. The junction breathes out, folds inward. What remains is a sense of frictionless connection, like data flowing without packet loss. You follow a narrow stair to an even deeper floor. Here, the lights are nearly out. Faint blue glimmers pulse from embedded circuits in the floor, guiding your way like breadcrumbs through the dark. You pass rooms with no doors, just heavy curtains of chain or laser mesh. Conversations drift from them, snippets about smuggling drones through mag ports, a stolen batch of industrial memory, a whisper about a new kind of synthetic empathy code. At one intersection, a mural fills the wall, spray paint and heat-burned glass forming a chaotic image of a face split down the middle, half human, half UI schematic. The eyes seem to follow you, not as a threat, but as if asking, how much of you is still yours? You walk on. The floor levels out into a gallery of decay. Long-forgotten service tunnels now house illicit art installations, sculptures made from discarded server components, drone wings, memory cartridges cut into fractal shapes. One corridor is filled entirely with white noise, the walls padded with audio foam, speakers embedded at every few steps. Standing there, the silence turns oppressive, synthetic. You move on quickly. Eventually you find a threshold that feels different, an unmarked door, not locked, not open. You touch it lightly, and it swings in without a sound. The room is round, low-lit by wall sconces running on emergency batteries. At its centre, a terminal old but active. No interface, just a keyboard and a screen waiting for input. On the wall behind it, scratched in dust and wire, are the words, "Nothing real can be owned. only accessed. You don't type anything, you simply sit. There is power in not engaging sometimes. The city beneath the city has shown you that. That silence is not the absence of noise, but the presence of choice. That retreat can be a strategy. That in the quiet your signal becomes clear. You rise, exit, the door seals softly behind you, and now you're walking again. Through deeper veins of this living system, the city above hums faintly, unreachable. Down here it's the forgotten spaces that hold value, the margins, the footnotes. And in those margins something stirs. You follow another passage quieter than the rest. The floor beneath your boots softens with a layer of dust, and a gentle mist curls low along the ground like breath exhaled by the walls themselves. Somewhere distant, a melody floats. Old, analogue. Something like a lullaby remembered by an abandoned music box. You pause, letting the tune wrap around you, noting how it doesn't ask for attention, only offers itself like a thread waiting to be followed. In this deeper section of the underbelly, the sense of urgency dissolves. The faces you glimpse are fewer, and those who linger here do so not for profit or escape, but for quiet. Someone meditates beside an old cooling coil, bathed in faint green luminescence from a sleeping server array. Another kneels at a graffiti altar of old tech, a prayer maybe, or just a moment of stillness. Down here faith hasn't disappeared, it's just evolved into rituals of silence and digital reverence. You step slowly, not wanting to break the spell. In this stillness the machinery hums in a different register, like breathing, not grinding. It's easy to believe the city dreams in places like this, its circuits resting beneath the static of surface chaos. And maybe, in that quiet, something new is beginning to take root. A flicker of green light against rusted metal draws your attention down a long corridor, where the sharp scent of oil and ozone mixes with something older, something alive. You begin to notice the architecture shifting, the lines less rigid, more organic. You're entering one of the city's rarest spaces, an urban sanctuary of living machines, where old-world botany merges with forgotten AI. A place where nature didn't vanish, it adapted. The corridor unfolds into a chamber unlike any you've seen in the city above. Here, exposed cables loop like vines around old support beams. Moss glows faintly from the surfaces of metal walls, pulsing with bioluminescent rhythm. You step carefully onto a floor that crunches faintly beneath your boots. Not from debris, but from layers of dry synthetic foliage woven with traces of circuitry. Above you, suspended from the ceiling, are long panels of translucent mesh, once used for signal dampening, now cradling clusters of hanging roots. Water trickles in controlled rivulets down angled sheets, feeding both wires and vegetation. The smell is rich and strange. Part compost, part circuitry, part ozone. It's as if the space has become a breathing organism, humming faintly with its own energy cycle. You pause at a junction where sunlight filters through a gap in the city's foundations above. The light touches the edge of a large structure, a kind of greenhouse dome stitched from scrap plexiglass, drone wings and flex cables. Inside you glimpse rows of hybrid plants, thick-leaved, sensor-studded vines curling around robotic tendrils, their movement slow, deliberate. One plant pulses softly at its base, emitting a sequence of tones at irregular intervals. Communication, or perhaps a form of song. You move through a corridor of trees. Yes, real trees. Their bark textured with embedded microchips and biometric tags long faded to disuse. They grow despite the lack of open air, fed by careful hydroponic systems and the filtered warmth of recycled exhaust. At their bases, fungus blooms in symmetrical patterns, etched with delicate light strips that flicker in time with some unseen cycle. There is a peace here, but it is not passive. It is earned. This place has survived, grow not in opposition to the city but in spite of it, maybe even because of it. The machines abandoned their intended functions. The roots reached deeper. Together they forged a kind of truce, not a return to nature but a rewriting of it. You come across a wide basin, half reflection pool, half reservoir, ringed with old data cores converted into temperature regulators. Beneath the water's surface, you see the outlines of submerged servers, their blinking lights muted beneath green algae. Small fish, genetically modified decades ago for tank cleaning, now flit between fibre optic strands as though navigating coral. A low arch leads you to another chamber, this one smaller and warmer. It's filled with sleeping machines, not powered down, but resting. Their screens dim, interfaces folded inward like petals. Some hum softly in standby, while others blink slowly as if dreaming. Scattered among them are planters filled with flowering weeds and mosses, none grown for beauty, but for balance. You sit for a moment beside one machine shaped like a sphere, its surface rough with rust but gently exhaling warm air. It doesn't acknowledge you. It doesn't need to. The silence is companion enough. Here, in the stillness, you feel the difference between abandoned and reclaimed, between forgotten and chosen. Further in, you find evidence of caretakers, people who come not to profit but to protect. Tools lie neatly beside open vents. Clean water is siphoned into old canisters. A hand-painted sign reads, "Let it grow." There's no camera system here, no alarms, only trust and pattern recognition. The sanctuary watches in ways that don't intrude. You are seen but not assessed. You follow a footpath of worn-out touchpads, their surfaces faded to softness as they lead to a central structure, a dome supported by scaffolding made from server towers and old tram rails. The air inside is fragrant, damp metal and blooming life, warm stone and decaying plastic. In the centre is a pillar wrapped in translucent polymer leaves, shifting colour as if tracking your breath. Embedded within it, screens display slow-moving sequences, ocean waves, the sky from long-gone satellites, the faces of animals no longer seen in the wild. These are not interactive displays. They exist for remembrance. A memory archive rendered in quiet light, offered without expectation. You don't need to touch anything to feel connected. Time slows here. There are no pings, no notices, no vibrations against your leg, or flashes in the corner of your vision. The only motion is the play of shadows on living bark and chrome-plated stems. You sit again, no chair, just the ground, warm, alive. The noise of the city recedes like a tide going out, and, in its absence, something grows. After a while, you walk again, through passageways lined with tiny gardens growing from the mouths of defunct terminals, past a stairwell overtaken by ivy-studded cables and bright fungal blooms, through a space once used as a relay station, now home to gentle growth and the occasional flutter of moths engineered from nanoplastic. At the edge of the sanctuary, just before the city resumes its humming chaos, there's a sign etched into the steel wall. It's written in multiple scripts, some long obsolete, but the meaning is clear enough. Coexist, sustain, reclaim. It's not a slogan, it's a condition of passage. You look back once at the lights growing out of moss and the vines cradling rusted machines like ancient bones. Then you step forward, away from the roots, into a new corridor where the air grows cooler, drier. A draft carries the distant echo of movement. You're not done walking yet. Additional 3 paragraphs before the transition. The corridor changes again. Pipes line the ceiling in tighter clusters, dripping condensation into narrow grates that buzz faintly with filtration cycles. The floor vibrates gently, not with the hum of nature but of returning systems, machines optimized for throughput and control. The gentle, irregular breath of the sanctuary is giving way to rhythm, to order. You pause beside an access node embedded into the wall, marked with a cryptic emblem, half leaf, half gear. Someone has carved lines beneath it, hand-drawn and deliberate, crossing out old protocols and replacing them with symbols of growth and rest. You trace them with your fingertips, feeling the groove of intention left behind. You wonder how long it will last, how long before someone deletes it, replaces it, forgets it. Then the hum shifts, deeper, more focused. You follow it. You pause at the threshold where the sanctuary's quiet pulse fades into the distant hum of the city's restless heart. The air feels different here, thinner, charged with the endless motion above, but for a moment you carry the calm with you, like a secret light hidden beneath your skin. The fragile harmony of metal and moss, machine and life stays with you, a reminder that even in the harshest places something soft and persistent can grow. As you step back into the shifting neon glow, the city's noise and chaos return around you like a tide, but it no longer feels overwhelming. Instead, it feels alive, complex and unpredictable, yes, but alive in a way that echoes the sanctuary's quiet resilience. You take a slow breath and walk forward, ready to meet the night, knowing that beneath the surface, life endures in many strange and beautiful forms. May the hum of neon dreams guide you gently through the static, and may the quiet places, those rare sanctuaries of moss and machine, find you in your sleep. Rest easy beneath the pulse of the city. The night watches, and you are not alone.